Are you and Karlissa friends? She say you messy. I don't have no friend. I ain't nobody friend. Ain't nobody my motherfucking friend. I know her. And I don't give a fuck what nobody say about me. You think I give a fuck? Messy with motion and getting some money. How about that?
The next day.
Tia sound like she disappointed in our relationship. I didn't know we had no problem with our relationship. So let me know something I didn't know.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
I thought we was good. You must know something I don't know. I'm seeing all this stuff on the internet. I'm trying to mind my own business. He got a couple people jumping out, taking up for him, so I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? They doing my job well. Yes, I seen the young lady jump out and take up for him, so you know.
This wasn't just shade. This was a social assassination attempt wrapped in a casual sentence. Because when Tia Kemp casually floated the idea that Blueface's own mother, Karlissa, has 0 friends, the internet didn't just gasp, it leaned forward like something illegal had just been whispered out loud. And let's be clear, this wasn't about friendships. This was about reputation, credibility, and that unspoken rule in celebrity culture where family members are supposed to stay quiet, not turn into he. Flying fuel. Because claiming someone has no friends isn't petty, it's surgical. It's the kind of insult that says more than 10 arguments ever could. And Karlissa, she didn't cry, she didn't hide, she didn't soft launch forgiveness. She fired back with the confidence of someone who felt that line cross the moment it left Tia Kemp's mouth. And suddenly, what should have been a small comment turned into a full-blown spectacle that made reality TV feuds look like warm-up acts. This made the Kardashians arguing over text bubbles look boring. Because now we weren't talking about Blueface, we weren't even talking about music. We were talking about isolation, loyalty, and whether calling someone friendless is the most disrespectful diss of the internet era. The secret wasn't just leaked, it was weaponized, and once Karlissa responded, it was clear this wasn't ending politely, not even close. In the hierarchy of internet insults, saying someone has no friends doesn't sound loud at first. It doesn't scream, it doesn't curse, it just sits there quietly like a loaded weapon. And when Tia Kemp dropped that claim about Blueface's mom, Karlissa, it landed with the precision of someone who knew exactly what nerve they were touching. Because this wasn't about social circles. This was about character, about likability, about whether a woman who has lived loudly, defended her son publicly, and refused to play the polite background role was secretly standing alone when the cameras shut off. The internet clocked it instantly. That sentence didn't feel accidental. It felt intentional, almost rehearsed, like one of those comments you don't say unless you want smoke. And smoke is exactly what followed. Because Karlissa isn't known for retreating into silence when she feels disrespected. She's known for stepping forward, chin up, eyes locked, daring the conversation to continue. And when word reached her that Tia Kemp had casually questioned her entire social existence, the response wasn't delayed. It was direct, controlled, and unmistakably irritated. To understand why this hits so hard, you have to understand Karlissa's position in the Blueface universe. She's not just the rapper's mom, she's a recurring character in the ongoing reality circus that follows his life. She speaks publicly, she defends aggressively, she critiques openly, and she has never pretended to be everyone's favorite. That's important. Because when someone who never chased approval gets accused of having no friends, it's either meaningless or it's deeply disrespectful. And Karlissa chose to treat it like the latter. Tia Kemp's comment didn't exist in a vacuum. It came layered with history, tension, and long-standing internet beefs that have been simmering just under the surface. Viewers weren't shocked that shade was thrown. They were shocked by how personal it felt. Because friendship isn't just about social life in public perception. It's about trust, about whether people choose you when they don't have to. And accusing someone of lacking that choice is a quiet way of calling them difficult, isolating, or worse, Karlissa's response didn't come wrapped in apologies or clarifications. She didn't ask to be understood. She challenged the premise. The tone wasn't defensive. It was offended. And there's a difference. Defensive energy tries to prove innocence. Offended energy assumes the accusation was ridiculous to begin with. She spoke like someone who felt the claim said more about the person making it than the person receiving it. Online reactions split immediately, because of course they did. One side treated Tia Kemp's comment like harmless shade, arguing that public figures shouldn't be sensitive about internet opinions. The other side saw it as a low blow, especially given Karlissa's position as a parent already under constant scrutiny. And then there were the spectators who didn't care who was right, only that the mess was finally entertaining enough to pause their scrolling. What made this moment escalate wasn't volume. It was implication. Karlissa didn't list friends, she didn't name names, she didn't parade receipts like trophies. Instead, she questioned why anyone would feel comfortable making such a claim in the first place. And that flipped the energy, because suddenly, the conversation wasn't about whether she had friends. It was about why Tia Kemp felt qualified to define her life from the outside. The sarcasm came next, and Karlissa's sarcasm doesn't arrive gently. It comes sharpened, the kind that sounds calm but cuts deep. She spoke with that unmistakable "I've been watching you" to tone, reminding everyone that internet commentary has a funny way of revealing more about the speaker than the target. And that's when things stopped feeling playful and started feeling personal. Fans started revisiting old clips, because nothing fuels internet drama like retroactive analysis. Past interactions were re-examined, old interviews replayed, neutral moments were suddenly loaded with meaning. And in that chaos, a narrative started forming, not about friends, but about power. About who gets to speak freely and who gets policed. For responding, Karlissa has always existed outside the neat boxes people try to place mothers in. She's not soft-spoken, she's not media-trained, she doesn't dilute opinions for likability. And that makes her polarizing. Some people admire it, others find it exhausting. But polarizing figures don't tend to lack friends, they tend to have fewer, louder ones. And that distinction mattered to her supporters. The insult also reopened an old debate about how women, especially outspoken women tied to controversial men, are judged. A man with no friends is focused. A woman with no friends is the problem. And that double standard wasn't lost on the audience. Karlissa's defenders weren't just defending her social life. They were defending her right to exist. Loudly without being labeled unlovable, Tia Kemp didn't immediately walk the comment back. And that silence only intensified things. Because when someone drops a line like that and doesn't clarify, it feels deliberate. Like they meant exactly what they said and were waiting to see how it landed. And it landed hard. Hard enough to shift attention. Hard enough to pull Karlissa into the center of a conversation she didn't start but was more than willing to finish. By the end of this phase, the narrative had already grown legs. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a challenge, a public one. And Karlissa's refusal to downplay it sent a clear message. She wasn't going to let a casual diss redefine her identity. Not quietly, not politely, and definitely not without returning fire. This wasn't the explosion yet. This was the spark catching dry grass. And once the internet realized this feud wasn't going to fizzle out, it leaned back, refreshed the feed, and waited for the next strike. Once Karlissa responded, the conversation stopped being about a comment and turned into a cultural event. The internet didn't just react, it assembled. Phones came out, screenshots flew, group chats lit up like emergency alerts. Because now this wasn't just shade between two women connected to chaos. This was a referendum on personality, motherhood, loyalty, and whether being outspoken automatically means being alone. And the algorithm ate it up like it hadn't been fed in days. Memes exploded within hours. Karlissa's old interviews were suddenly re-edited with dramatic music like she was the villain in a reality TV finale. Meanwhile, Tia Kemp's comment got plastered across timelines with captions ranging from "she said what we were all thinking" to "that was foul and unnecessary." There was no middle ground. Neutrality got evicted early. You were either defending Karlissa's right to exist unfiltered or applauding Tia for telling the truth. And the louder the takes got, the messier the conversation became. Celebrity-adjacent figures chimed in without naming names, which somehow made everything worse. Vague posts about energy vampires, burning bridges, and people who think being real excuses being rude flooded social media. Each post got dissected like it was a coded message meant for insiders only. Who was that about? Who liked it? Who unfollowed who 5 minutes later? The internet turned into a digital crime lab, analyzing behavior like fingerprints at a scandal scene. What escalated the situation was how personal the insult felt to people watching. Friendship is one of those things everyone thinks they understands, which makes it the perfect weapon. You don't need proof, you just need confidence. And Tia Kemp's confidence when she made the claim convinced some viewers that she must know something. That assumption alone did damage, because perception moves faster than facts and leaves deeper scars. Karlissa's supporters pushed back hard, reframing the narrative with sarcasm and sharp humor. They argued that not entertaining nonsense doesn't equal isolation, that being selective doesn't equal being friendless, and that loud women don't owe the public a roll call of their personal relationships to prove they're worthy of respect. The conversation widened from gossip to commentary on how women in public spaces are expected to perform likability like it's part of their job description. Then came the pop culture comparisons. Because no internet feud is complete without them. People compared Karlissa to every outspoken reality matriarch who ever rubbed viewers the wrong way. Some called her the unfiltered mom you love to hate. Others joked that even soap opera villains had better PR teams. And while those comparisons were exaggerated, they highlighted something important. Karlissa isn't invisible, and invisible people don't get accused of having no friends. The outrage cycle intensified when people started conflating no friends with bad mother, which is where the line officially snapped. That implication triggered a completely different audience, one less interested in drama and more interested in respect. Mothers online stepped in, calling out how quickly public conversations turn cruel when women don't fit a soft, agreeable mold. And suddenly, this wasn't just celebrity mess. It was social commentary disguised as shade. Tia Kemp's silence during this escalation didn't help, without clarification or follow-up. Her original comment became a blank canvas for interpretation. Some said she was standing on it. Others said she was letting the storm blow over. Either way, the absence of explanation allowed the harshest interpretations to stick. And in internet culture, once a narrative hardens, it takes a miracle to soften it. Karlissa, meanwhile, didn't flood the internet with responses. That restraint frustrated critics and empowered supporters. Every time she didn't respond, the speculation grew. Was she above it? Was she plotting? Was she letting the conversation expose itself? Silence can be strategic, and viewers could feel it. The tension wasn't fading, it was fermenting. The funniest twist in all of this was how the insult backfired. The more people argued about Karlissa's supposed lack of friends, the more people publicly defended her. Old acquaintances surfaced, supporters became vocal. And suddenly, the claim started looking less like an observation and more like a miscalculation. Because nothing disproves no one supports you faster than a crowd showing up loudly. Still, the damage wasn't undone. The label lingered. Even jokes about it reinforced it. Every time someone laughed, commented, or remixed the moment, it etched itself deeper into public memory. And that's the cruel trick of internet drama. Even when you win the argument, the accusation still sticks around like a stubborn stain. By the end of this stage, the feud had outgrown its origin. It was no longer about who said what. It was about how quickly the public decides who deserves grace and who doesn't. Karlissa's name trended alongside words like problematic, unfiltered, and lonely, while Tia Kemp's name floated in a strange limbo between truth-teller and instigator. No clear villain, no clear hero, just a mess expanding outward. This wasn't the climax yet. This was the pressure building. because when internet outrage peaks without resolution, it doesn't disappear, it mutates. And everyone watching knew one thing for sure. The aftermath was going to say far more than the insult ever did. After the internet finished screaming, joking, debating, and psychoanalyzing, the noise didn't fade. It settled. And that's when things got uncomfortable, because outrage is loud, but aftermath is quiet, and quiet is where reputations actually change. This wasn't about who won the argument anymore. It was about what stuck. And what stuck wasn't the insult itself, but the way it reframed how people looked at everyone involved. Karlissa didn't suddenly disappear. She didn't retreat, but the way she was discussed shifted. Every appearance, every comment, every clip was now filtered through that accusation, whether people realized it or not. That's how subtle damage works. You don't feel it immediately. You feel it when people start watching you differently, when curiosity replaces amusement, when judgment sneaks in wearing the mask of concern. What made this moment dangerous wasn't the claim of having no friends. It was the implication that came with it. The suggestion that if someone is outspoken, confrontational, or unapologetic, isolation must be the reason. That narrative is poison in public culture, especially for women connected to controversial men. Karlissa didn't just defend herself. She challenged that entire assumption. But once a narrative is released into the wild, challenging it doesn't guarantee control over it. Behind the scenes, the ripple effects started showing. Conversations involving Karlissa reportedly became more cautious, not hostile, not dismissive, careful. Carefulness is the industry's way of saying, we're watching. And being watched differently is often the first step before opportunities. Quietly adjust, nothing dramatic, just less enthusiasm. More conditions, fewer spontaneous invites, the kind of changes you don't notice until you look back and realize the room feels colder. Tia Kemp didn't emerge unscathed either. While some applauded her bluntness, others began questioning motive. Was it honesty or provocation? Was it commentary or cruelty? And that question followed her longer than expected. In internet culture, being seen as real only works when people believe your intentions are clean. Once doubt creeps in, even valid points get side-eyed. Her words sparked conversation, but they also branded her as someone willing to go personal fast. The irony is that neither woman set out to create a moral debate. But that's what happens when personal insults go public. The audience stops caring about the feud and starts using it as a measuring stick for their own values. People weren't just judging Karlissa or Tia anymore. They were judging each other in comment sections. And that's when drama stops being entertainment and starts becoming social theater. Karlissa's refusal to over-explain herself became its own statement. She didn't beg the internet to understand her. She didn't roll out a redemption arc. She stayed consistent, and consistency, while not flashy, is powerful. Over time, it forced critics to either escalate or move on. Some escalated, most moved on. But the ones who moved on did so with a slightly altered perception, and perception is everything. The phrase "no friends" lingered like a ghost, not because it was true, but because it was catchy. Internet culture loves labels that can be reused endlessly. And once something becomes reusable, it becomes permanent. Jokes referenced it, comments echoed it, even defenses repeated it, and repetition, regardless of intent, cements narratives. That's the part people underestimate. Even denial spreads. The idea further, for Karlissa, this moment marked a transition, not a downfall, a shift. She went from being seen as chaotic background noise to being evaluated as a figure with impact. And impact invites scrutiny. People don't scrutinize irrelevance. They scrutinize influence. Whether she wanted that role or not, the spotlight sharpened, and sharper lights reveal sharper edges. The public didn't cancel her. They recalibrated their expectations. They stopped treating her outbursts as entertainment and started interpreting them as statements. That's a heavier burden. It means every future moment carries more weight. And weight is exhausting to carry when your brand was built on spontaneity. As for the feud itself, It never got a clean ending. No apology, no reconciliation, no viral sit-down, just distance. And distance is often the final stage of public conflict. Not resolution, but separation. Everyone involved moved forward, but not unchanged. The audience didn't forget. They archived that the real takeaway wasn't about friendship. It was about how quickly a single sentence can reroute a public narrative. How one comment can pull years of behavior into question. How words don't just describe reality, they reshape it. Karlissa learned that in real time. Kemp reminded everyone that bluntness comes with a price tag. And the cliffhanger isn't whether this feud reignites, it's whether the internet will eventually turn the same microscope on someone else using the same logic. Because it always does. The cycle doesn't end, it rotates. This wasn't a scandal that exploded, it was one that seeped. And those are the ones that last. Because long after the comments quiet down and the memes stop circulating, the shift in perception remains. And in the world of fame, perception is louder than truth and longer lasting than noise. If you made it this far, congratulations, you just survived another episode of internet chaos where one sentence turned into a full-blown cultural debate. And that's exactly why this channel exists. We don't just watch the drama, we dissect it, flip it, and expose the uncomfortable truths hiding behind the headlines. If this story had you shaking your head, laughing out loud, or questioning how grown adults turn shade into spectacle, then you already know this isn't your average celebrity gossip stop. Now do me a favor and smash that like button like it personally offended you and then asked why. You're so sensitive. Drop a comment and tell me who you think crossed the line here. Was Kemp just being brutally honest? Or did Karlissa have every right to fire back after that no friends claim? Don't hold back. This comment section thrives on bold opinions, spicy debates, and theories that would get you side-eyed everywhere else. Hit subscribe if you're tired of watered-down takes and want the unfiltered version of fame that nobody else is willing. To talk about, this channel doesn't. Play favorites. We call out the mess wherever it lives because scandals don't stop just because the internet gets bored. They evolve. And trust me, there's always another one loading in the background that turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown. Because here at Fame Flaws, we don't just report the chaos. We explain why it keeps happening. Fame is fragile. Reputations crack fast. And one careless sentence can rewrite everything.